Welcome to the Spiritual Story Podcast, where we will dive deep into the ancient wisdom of sages all around the globe. The story of Socrates' death is so deep, it really shows us what it means to be spiritually advanced. Do not be attached to this temporary material world. Socrates was sentenced to death by poison approximately 400 BC. Because Socrates, he was dismantling their tradition in Athens. He was influencing the minds of the young people. Many politicians didn't like him because he changed the view of how to worship the gods and established his own deities. So Socrates was very controversial. They didn't like him. They want to get rid of him. So there was a big court case, and Socrates was supposed to be sentenced. But Socrates said, "You're all fools. I don't take you serious. I don't accept your sentence. I'm not guilty. You're fools. Get out of my sight." Because he didn't care if they sentence him now, if he lives or he dies. Actually, he was eager to die because he wanted to know what will happen after I leave this body. He understood he's not the body. He's the consciousness within. So he was sentenced to be poisoned. Death penalty. So one guy was supposed to give him the poison. He was very hesitant. He saw the greatness in Socrates. And Socrates said, "Hey, I don't want to wait. Give him the poison right now." And this guy asked him, "Why do you want to die so quickly? Don't you want to live?" He said, "What's the use of prolonging my life if I anyways be sentenced to death? And it's very interesting. I would like to know what will happen after I die. Don't you want to know?" He was so eager to die. And the man asked him, "But why are you not afraid? Are you not supposed to be afraid of death?" And Socrates said, "What's the use anyways? I mean, if there's only one life, if I will die now, if I'm only made of chemicals, then anyways, what's the use if I die now or in 10 years or in 20 years? It doesn't matter. If I'm eternal, if I'm the soul within, and I get another body, it also doesn't matter if I'm Sat, eternal, or Asat, non-eternal. In either case, it doesn't matter." Wow, right? Imagine you face death. They will tell you, tomorrow you will die. Boom, mind-blowing, right? What you gonna do? We are all thinking it will never happen to us. Everyone around us dies, but we think it will go on forever. Why is it that we don't deal with the fact that at one point we have to leave this mortal world behind? Because the soul inside is eternal. Sat. In Sanskrit we call it Sat. Sat means eternity. What does eternity mean? What does eternity mean? No beginning, no end. No birth, no death. So the soul, the conscious being within, you and me, we are both eternal. Fascinating. We were never born and we will never die. The spiritual being is always there, unchangeable. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, there's no time where you were not existing, where I was not existing, where all the people on the battlefield now were not existing. There's no reason to cry. There's no reason to lament. Every one of us will die, and every one of us will be born again. That's the nature of this material world. But the soul inside is eternal, and the soul wanders from childhood to teenage life, to adult life, to old age. Dehinus min yatadehe, komoram yovanam chara. The soul is traveling in this body already. We are changing bodies in this life every 7 years. Our cells are changing. Every day our bodies changing. Every day our bodies die and be born again. Every day our bodies are changing. But the soul is always the same. If I ask you now, are you still the same inside there? Are you still the same person? I can remember when I was a small child, when I was a teenager, and I was always the same. You learn more, you increase your family, your friends, your circle of influence, your money, your wealth. Maybe your health is decreasing. Yeah. Different experiences, different shapes and circumstances, different persons in your life. But you're always the same. You're always the conscious observer. Tata tehantara praptir, diras tatra namuyati. Dira, someone who is self-realized, who is sober, he is not getting bewildered by the change of body. Yeah? In the same way, we're changing bodies in this life. After we leave this body, we again changing the body into a new form. Like you give up old garments. After this YouTube video, I will open here. I will take off my YouTube costume, my Bagelbandi, Kurta, and I will put on some other shirt, what can get dirty, where I can do exercise and eat with. Yeah. And every day we're changing our clothes. Yeah. And the same way, the soul is just changing bodies. There's no reason to lament. Of course, if we lose someone important in our life, we lament, we cry. But why don't we lament for everyone? So many people are dying. The soul, though, is eternal. And Socrates really understood this principle. And he thought, even if I'm not eternal, if I'm just chemicals, and I will die, then anyways, there's no suffering. There's no beyond. Then it's just over. Basically, I can do what I want. Don't need to be healthy. I don't need to be rich or get old. Just can do what I like because there's no consequences. I will die and it's finished. In modern society, we have these two extremes. Yeah? Spiritually, materially. Only this lifetime. Everything will be over. There will be no afterlife. And then we have, no, if you don't follow, you create sin and then you go to hell and you suffer. And other people say, no, there's a heaven and I will meet my parents and my grandparents and my loved ones. And other people say, no, there's reincarnation, we will come back. In either case, it doesn't really matter. So what we're gonna do with this information? I mean, the Vedas say clearly, there's many lifetimes. And according to the state of your mind, at the time of death, it will decide the destination of your next body. Fascinating, right? So one might say, okay, at the end of life, I just think about something spiritual or something higher planetary systems, or that I'm rich, and then I will be rich next life. At the time of death, it will be very difficult for us to remember, to use our mind, our intelligence. We will be so much in pain, or it happens really quick. So we have to cultivate our state of mind, our whole life, starting right now. You don't know what will happen today. You go out to the street, you open the door, and the car hits you, and your life is finished. And whatever you cultivated, whatever your state of mind is right now, the body you will get in the next. If you live like an animal, just thinking about sex, defending, eating, sleeping, yeah, even a dog can do. A dog don't need to work hard. You can see dogs on the street, they jump on each other, they're having no shame, they just interact on a very low level. They eat, they sleep, they defend, they bark, they attack. Yeah. So if you want to be like this, you can be an animal in next life. It's okay. Yeah. But if you use our God-given the word itself, God-given intelligence, if we use our mind, that we get self-realized to understand who we are, that there's birth and death in this life, and there's a cycle of birth, death, old age and disease. And I want to take myself out of this cycle of suffering. I'm an eternal spiritual being. Sat Chit. I'm eternal, full of consciousness, knowledge and wisdom, fully aware. And Ananda, full of bliss and harmony and ecstasy and happiness. Then I might ask myself, what do I have to do to become blissful? To break the cycle of birth and death. And for that, we need to cultivate a spiritual consciousness. If you want a spiritual body, you have to work your whole life now to create a spiritual consciousness. If you want to reach heaven, heaven means, in the Bible you have the heaven, but in Vedas it's clearly stated, it's the higher planetary systems where entities live much longer, give much more enjoyment, and you can only reach there if you cultivate the mode of goodness, if you're sattvic, if you're pure, if you give in charity, if you help people. Then you go to higher planetary systems. If you're completely engaged in sense gratification, you will stay on planet Earth, in the middle, mode of passion. If you live in ignorance like an animal, you will degrade yourself and you will go to lower species of life where you get the body of an animal. So we can decide, if you connect your individual soul with the divine, with God, you will get a body and then you will get a spiritual body. It's so simple. You decide your destination. Of course, we're influenced by circumstances, by karma, by knowledge, by ignorance. If you just start now and ask yourself, what do I want in my next life? If you say, okay, there's no life after death, there's no God, that's also fine. You still will be thrown in the cycle of birth and death. There's no way around it. And there's so many proofs. There's people who can remember their previous lives. There's so many documents and researches done. There's so many people out there in the world speaking about this topic. But we in ignorance, we say no. There's only one life. Science says. Even science doesn't know, because life comes from life. Life never comes from matter. Nowadays they try to create life, but it was never successful so far, because it's not possible. I can create a skyscraper, for example, but where are the materials coming from? From the material nature, from the elements. Where are the elements coming from? From God. So everything has life behind. When you take your last breath, then you leave this world behind. And we say, he took his last breath, he died, because the soul is traveling with the breath. There's no life air, no breath, the soul leaves the body. My father died, says the child to his mother. But the mother says, the father is lying there. What do you say? The father is still here. No, he left, he died. He left us. But the body is still here. The father is still here, right? But the child says, no, he's gone, he's in the heaven now. Yeah. Because the father left his body. So the father is not the body. The body is just a vehicle, like our car. When you enter the car, are you the car? No, you're the driver of the car. When we enter this body, we are not the body. We become the driver of the body. Yatra means machine. Everything is a machine. The whole universe is a machine. Our bodies are machines. So the spiritual spark, the soul within, this part is eternal. And we decide our journey. So sit down and ask yourself, what do you want to become in next life? Socrates, he didn't care. He said, in either case, I will be happy. I have no fear. And this is spiritual advancement. Do not be afraid of death. To work with it instead. To use your fear, because the biggest fear is the fear of death. All our desires, all our anger and frustration and everything we do is based on fear. So we have to change it to act in love, in devotion, in harmony, in peace and in balance. There's only fear and there's love. And you can decide how do you live your life. And if you start to live consciously or God consciously, there will be no fear in your life. I ask myself many times this question, if I would know if I would die now. I have lots of attachments and I'm not ready yet. But honestly I tell you, I'm not afraid of death because I know I'm the spiritual soul within. I'm eternal. I will never die. Whatever happens, as these movies about the world is ending, everything is under ice. No life. Only a few chosen ones. So what? You take your soul, you incarnate in another body. The universe is so big. We're not the only one here on planet Earth. Then you go to another planet. If there's no life on planet Earth. But God will never let it happen. Life always comes back. And there's not just one universe. The Vedas describe many universes. So many opportunities for you to incarnate. But don't forget, I hope that we understand we want to come out of the cycle of birth and death and live a spiritual life, eternal, where there's no birth, where there's no death. In the material world there is. Everyone takes birth, everyone dies. In a material body. Where there's chit, full of knowledge and awareness and consciousness. Wisdom, now we are completely in ignorance. We need to watch a video, we need to listen, we need to hear, we need to read, we need to research, reflect, get knowledge. But we, in the spiritual realm, identity, we are chit, full of consciousness. And ananda, the bliss, the happiness. In the material world, there's happiness and there's distress. Yeah? You can't separate them. You can't separate. It's good, it's bad. It's dark, it's night. The duality is always there. In the spiritual world, there's only ananda. Everything is bliss. Every word is a song. Every step is a dance. And every day is a big festival. So, just think about it. Take it as it is. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what is your next destination. Where you would like to go in this life. It's good to have a map. It's good to have a goal, right? Otherwise you just space around. If you want to know what you want to do in this life and you want to achieve it, you have to work hard for it. But we're only focusing on this life. But what about the next? I don't want to become a dog, a hog or a donkey in next life. Yeah, to be a human again, maybe not so bad. But what if I can uplift myself to higher planetary systems where everything is easy, or even to connect back to my spiritual source and leave all suffering behind. Because even if you go to the higher planetary systems, you still have to incarnate in the cycle of birth and death. So think about it, and let's decide now, and let's make a decision today where we would like to go. Thank you for watching. Namaste.